Damn these Biloxi blues, it happens every night. And I ain't never met a riverboat dealer that could ever be a friend of mine. I have not. The summer heat never treats me kind, it leaves trouble on my mind. So I'm bidding farewell, putting in my notice, and I'll see you at another time. This highway does not know my name, and I don't care. No, I don't care. Headed my way for another place, and I got 3 good tires and a spare. Right to the hook, right here, just a white line gypsy getting out of Mississippi with just enough gas to get there. Low budget live, not so live. Thank you for stopping in with me. If you are new to this experience that we call the Low Budget Live, Not So Live podcast, sometimes we do it live, sometimes we don't. We do what we want. And by we, I mean me, because I'm a one-man show. This is very low budget. I am the producer. I am the host, Luke Duncan. I even wrote the intro music. That was my song, Biloxi Blues. And if you're new to this program, let me just tell you. That is my song. And the fans are called lowlifers. The listeners, the loyal supporters, the loyal supporters are called lowlifers. That's what the fans of this program named themselves the lowlifers. So if you find yourself here and you enjoy what you're hearing coming out of this, the Low Budget Live Bar and Grill / bunker these days in this COVID crazy world, you're a lowlifer now. So welcome. It's like a little safe space. The only time it is not safe is if you disagree with something I say and then people get really heated really quick. You need to understand that about the show because I tend to speak my mind. Did that last week. Man, people get big mad. Not many, but some. Big mad. Big mad. And I just, if I was up here talking about anything else, it'd be all right, Hope you're all doing well out there. This is the podcast for Monday, July 20th, in this crazy, messed up, no good mess of a year 2020. Thank y'all for joining in. It's been a crazy week. It's always a crazy week. But this week was wild, man. Wild between fighting what I believe to be BPT pros or their wives that don't want to speak from their own logins on YouTube comments. It's always fun. About how biased and stupid you are and you can't catch a fish in tournaments. I've critiqued myself on my professional fishing career more than anybody ever can, so get a new line. But that, and then game two of the Shut Up, Shut Up Championship, whatever we're calling it. Darian called it Shut Up, or Show Up on the video this week. But game 2 down at Nickajack Lake, and spoiler alert, mute the podcast if you don't want to hear it. If you haven't got to see the video yet, go check it out right here. But I was able to take game 2. We got a game 3 filmed this week. I will not tell you how that went. It was a lot of fun again. It's intense what we're doing. Me versus Darian is fishing, stupid, dumb Darian, fighting each other to the death on a game-by-game basis. The first 1 to 4 games wins. But we had that this week. I got to be a part of ICAST Week, the virtual ICAST for my buddies at 6 Cents Fishing. Right there, repping that brand. Got to do Tackle Warehouse Live. And I know there were some like Bass Pro Shops. They were kind of the innovators in that retail game, you know. But what those guys have done at Tackle Warehouse never ceases to amaze me. They did it all week. ICAST Live, Zoom calls. Dude, it looked like the war room, man. When I'm calling in ready to go on live with the guys, yeah, I mean, they got people running around in the background. I mean, a studio looking, feeling vibe set up. And they did this all week, interviewing pros, interviewing personalities, interviewing people from companies about new products and getting the information to the consumers. It was a beautiful thing. It was really, really, really well done. So big shout out to those Tackle Warehouse crew out there. And thanks for having me on. It was fun. I got to talk about the new 6 Cents baits that are coming out and have some fun with those guys. And they even brought up shut up. You know, they brought that up. They think it's a really big deal. How bad I'm beating Darien. Like, they enjoy that at Tackle Warehouse. But what other place in the world can you order some stuff and you're on the East Coast? You're like, man, I want some 6 Cents crankbaits and some Abu Garcia rods and reels. Tomorrow. They're in California. They just ship them on to you. I've never understood how that works. I'm a redneck. That blows my mind that you can put in an order. I was at Lake Champlain one time and needed something crazy and had it overnighted, and that's as far up there as you can get on the East Coast. It was just there. It's the next day. So big thanks to those guys. They kill the game. They kill the tackle game. They got what you want, all the new, latest, greatest, and you can get it. The prices are good, and you can just do it in your underwear. I mean, sometimes I just kick back. Sometimes I might not even be in my underwear. I just take my pants off to my underwear just to be more comfortable to surf Tackle Warehouse. Was that too much information for y'all? That's what you can do, though. You can't do that at Bass Pro Shops. Johnny Morris will have you thrown in jail. You can't walk around there in your boxers, picking your nose, looking at Cincos. You can't do that. You can do that at Tackle Warehouse. They don't even care. They don't even care at all. But so congrats to those guys on a good week. And I think that as an industry, we didn't suffer from not having ICAST. I have said that before. I think conventions are kind of old school. And I think in this new digital age, things are changing. And that there may be a day where you don't see things like conventions like that. Truly. But man, everybody, I mean, I saw a lot of big tackle companies really pull it off. I know I was a part of some launches with Abu this week, just some dropping the information to people. They're making sure the pro staff had the product in their hands, and it was really beautiful how well it was pulled off by the whole industry. So good job, guys. Good job. And it was fun being a part of all the sponsor activities this week. Just like being ICAST, except A, I didn't get drunk at the Costa party like I normally do. And B, really hungover, and B, I didn't get to see everybody. That was the two things I missed. And I didn't get to see the guys from Starbright, bringing you low budget live, not so live, and low budget live for 3 years now. The fine folks at Starbright and Startron, who I miss dearly because I hang with them at ICAST every single year. They're Florida people. Good seeing them down there, and we really appreciate them sponsoring Low Budget Live and taking care of your small engines, your outboard engines, your car, your truck. Not a lot of things that Startron can't take care of, and get that stinking old ethanol right out of your way, kicking ethanol in the teeth. Startron. Proud sponsors of Low Budget Live and Luke Duncan's Traveling Circus. Appreciate those guys. Let's jump right in. We got a good guest tonight, an interesting one, a fun one. And we're going to get to that after some rambling. Big fishing week. Again, I like this. It's not normal. Nothing is normal right now, but I like fishing. We had fishing last week with MLF, BPT. We got to see some guys fishing and now we get some more fishing this week in really a bigger capacity. You can watch it pretty much anywhere because it's going to be on ESPN2. Again, that's big. But Bassmaster, New York State, they are up there, and a lot of people were like, y'all don't need to do this. And some people in the state of New York were like, y'all ain't going to do this. And some of the anglers were like, we don't want to do this. And a lot of them were like, shut your mouths. It's been kind of crazy. The PR for this one could go a million different ways, right? A million different ways. They are taking every precaution under the sun to be able to pull off this event in New York. Because look, I've said it on here. I am a fan of them going up there. I think that, yes, it is controversial to a certain extent. But I think for bass, they haven't had a lot of events this year. MLF just had a smallmouth just beat down, and people like watching that. And I think if you're going to be on ESPN2 again, you can't do it at Lake Hartwell right now. Not picking on Lake Hartwell, but you can't come to the Southeast and not catch them because people are going to turn the channel. But if you're up there, everybody's mixing it up. Everybody's catching smallmouth. You got that Great Lakes, like the mystique of the big lakes and stuff, big runs. I think it's cool. They had to change the venue from Waddington, New York to Clayton because I think Waddington was like, yeah, you guys are out of here. You know, they have a very good relationship with Waddington, have over the years, it seems, from what it looks like. And I think they had a 3-year deal with Waddington, actually. But it's going to be down at Clayton, which is where a lot of old Bassmaster tournaments have gone out of. A lot of Costas and things go out of Clayton. Back in the day, Clayton was where it was at for all the Bassmaster Eastern Invitationals back in the day and stuff. So back to Clayton. Clayton's one of my favorite cities in North America. Freaking great place. St. Lawrence River. It's one of the most beautiful places. So I'm jacked. Just like I was watching them catch them at Sturgeon Bay, I am pumped to see some big smallmouth and get to watch it on my flat screen. That's going to be fun. That being said, it's a crazy week, and New York State is very wild right now. And there was no mistake to be made that if guys went up there, there was mandatory testing for COVID. They already did that, I believe, on Saturday. Saw a lot of guys posted, hey, pass the test. And there's some of those guys I know is the first test they ever passed, especially like Skylar Hamilton. It's the only test he's ever passed. Love you, Skylar. Just messing around. Truly, Skylar made a really good joke. Swindle had a really good joke, too, about proctologists and something along the lines of COVID. It's on his Instagram. Go watch it. It was pretty funny. But they all had to get tested upon arrival. And to my understanding, if somebody failed the test or did good on the test, I don't know. If you fail, it's a positive, right? That's a weird one. So if somebody got a positive saying they had COVID, then you have to be out of the event, and it's a 14-day, potentially 14-day quarantine. Like people from New York looking over your shoulder. No offense to you folks from New York at all. Lord knows, I love that part of the world. But, I mean, I think it was going to be a pretty big deal. You've got guys coming from all these different states, and it's risky right now because the numbers, there are a lot more testing. The numbers are going up. Like I said, I personally know several people that have had COVID now, and some have been over it and done pretty quick. I've got a young man that I know, and he's in his 30s. I say young because I'm in my 30s, and I like to think I'm young, but he's younger than I am, and he's struggling with it hard right now in my hometown, and no pre-existing anything. So this thing's blowing up more and more and more, seems to be, and at least in the positive cases. And so you took a big risk going there with close to 100 people. I never thought, and I have not heard that there was one negative. It doesn't seem like that was the case, to my knowledge. And a lot of guys were posting, hey, they were good to go. Talked to some buddies of mine, good to go. But you took a big chance going there because one guy from freaking wherever test positive, man, they were going to all but shackle him. It sure seemed to me it had that vibe. But seemed like everybody's good. Going to have a bass tournament. Going to have a bass tournament on ESPN too. So, and I know this week a lot of anglers. It was started by a couple guys with bass. Started a big email chain. They didn't want to go. They didn't want to go. Didn't feel like it was the best play. And I see their point. Totally see their point. But it's a big opportunity if you fish for a living, which they do, and you get an opportunity to be on ESPN2, which you have, again, for the second time. I think you got to make the trip. Because, look, this is the safest sport in the world right now as far as COVID's concerned. In my opinion, we're by ourselves in our boats all day long. You're going to be interacting with people at the bare minimum. They're not going to have fans this week. And I think they're taking all the proper precautions. I think you got to fish. Would I feel different if I was in the field? I don't know. But I think from an outsider's perspective, I think you got to fish. I think the fans want it. I think it'll be a very well-received event. And I wish them luck with that. I think that it's going to be a good deal for them. It's going to be a good week. They're going to blast big smallmouth lake. They can't go to the Canadian side. Sorry, Gussie, the Johnstons. Won't matter. Won't slow them boys down. But it's going to be a good event. Interesting event. Then they back it up with Lake Champlain next week. Another week on ESPN2. But we all get tested again next week. So, fingers crossed. And Bass has some things put in place if somebody gets it and they have to set out an event. They've done their homework on this. They've done their homework. But the last thing they need is a pro angler. The last thing we need as an industry, as a sport, we don't need somebody up in New York tested positive for COVID that came from Arkansas or Tennessee or Florida or wherever. We don't need one of our pros in this sport testing positive during an event. No bueno if that happens. No bueno. But they'll get retested, and then we'll see. Bass also announced this week that everybody will be allowed back in next year. Everybody automatically requalifies. It was supposed to be a year where some folks were going to get dipped out of there if they didn't requalify. Not the case. Going to let everybody back in. And I didn't read a lot of the articles, saw the headline. Had a lot of people send it to me, as always. Makes you wonder, with everything going on the other playing field there, Bass Pro Tour, if there'll be a couple legend spots opened up again. Maybe get some guys back in there that may want to come back. That's just me speculating. And then if you're in that field of guys, can't really piss and moan about it because nobody got booted. So I could be strategic on Bass's part. And it's been a crazy year. Ups and downs, canceled tournaments, rescheduled tournaments, canceled tournaments again, rescheduled. Who knows if we'll get to keep fishing. It's a week-by-week basis at this point, but everybody's coming back for the 2021 Elite Series. Everybody. And maybe some new faces. There will be some new faces from the Opens regardless, but will those legend spots open up now? I think it's a power play. My opinion. Gets that field closer to 100 again, which I think is where you want it. My opinion. Just my opinion. And look, it's just like Marty Stone says. Let's just face it. If Marty says that it's right, and he says that some of those guys over there just can't hack it at the BPT with the format, so they're going to go running away. So, if he says it, it's probably going to happen. He said there were some guys not coming back. He didn't seem to be butthurt about it at all, to say that on live broadcast. MLFLW news. Huge congratulations to Justin Lucas. Huge. That was total freaking insanity, first of all. Caught over 200 pounds of smallmouth. I don't even know how many he caught. I can't do math anyways. 200 pounds of smallmouth in the opening rounds, and then in his last one caught over 100 again. And it's just like, it's crazy. I was reading an article on how he figured it out and the pattern he found. It was really cool. Really cool. And I text with Justin, congratulating Justin. Justin's a good guy. And we have a lot of mutual friends. I know Justin fairly well. He's a good guy. He's a good family man. And he is he's won, he proved his worth. He won AOI at Bass. He won Elite Series. Now, and it seemed like it kind of took him a little bit to get in the groove of that over there, but, he won the last one. So congrats to him. And then he's rooming with freaking Jordan Lee, knocked down AOI in that deal. And if I'm that kid, because he is a kid, he's like 27 years old, Jordan, if you're listening, just retire. I would just retire. Or maybe you should take up like catfish tournaments, crappie tournaments. Do something else that you're not just really good at. It's like him and Jacob Wheeler. Like, he just land on them all the time. Go do something else. Man, it's something else to watch those guys. Just when a guy, it's like some of the Van Damme years and some of these, just when they get on a roll, it's something to see in this sport. And it's like that in every sport. But man, fishing is so different though, because it's you against the fish. Got to text our guests. Text our guest. But to see what he's done is crazy. Positives from that event, I would say definitely the minimum helps. The minimum helps. Hell, if they could have weighed in 1 pounders, I don't know how many 1 pounders got caught. The weights might have been even crazier, but they had a 2 pound minimum up there. And something I talked about last week that was the payout getting cut down. Well, when I talked to some friends of mine over there that are fishing that, the payout was cut down. That top prize was cut down, $100,000 to 65, 64, whatever it was. It was distributed. Everybody got a check. Everybody got a check that showed up at the tournament, because they're not getting to have any more tournaments because of COVID, and because they're all fishing MLF super tournaments now, the ones that wanted to, and paying entry fees over there. So they distributed the cash amongst the field just like they did at heavy hitters, which I think is a good thing when everybody gets a check, since there were so many events promised and now they're not getting to do that. And then who knows, with next year, you're saying they're going to pay entry fees. So they need every dime they can get. It's tough. It's hard out here on a playoff. It's tough. So every dime will be needed. But I applaud that. But the anglers did vote for that. The anglers did vote for that. And I think that was a good move. Some of them are going to turn right back around and donate that to the super tournament, the MLFLW Super Tournament, the FLW Tour event, which is no longer, the next one's at La Crosse, Wisconsin, but the last one of the year was going to be at Detroit, St. Clair in August, and it is now a no-go from the way I understand it, because you can't have over 115 boats or 150 in a tournament in Michigan now. Like, they put some kind of rule on that. I don't know. It's what I was told. Word on the street was they were going to move it to Lake Oahe in South Dakota, but I think most guys would rather put their fists in the blender than drive 20 hours from where they live to go to the last tournament. So now it's either going to be Sandusky Bay or the Potomac in August, which is a lot like going to the face of the sun in August. That's the hottest place in the damn world. The Potomac River is as hot as it gets. But those are the two choices, looks like, for the last Super Tournament of the year. Next week, they're going to be at La Crosse, of course, like I said. Be interesting to see how 200 and something boats fits at La Crosse. But I have to say, though, and kudos to them for rescheduling stuff. It's like Bass, whoever, like this weekend on Pickwick, there were 2 BFLs back-to-back days. And I know they've been doing that, a Saturday and a Sunday, and it's 2 separate tournaments. But to get them in, kudos for that, and being able to figure it out. And maybe Oahe, South Dakota was the only choice that popped into somebody's head that was making that decision at first. But glad they could get it somewhere else for most of the guys. But it's got to be crazy trying to replan all this stuff. It was like when MLF decided not to go to Vermont BPT, whatever, and then had to go to Sandusky. And a lot of guys are mad because, you got housing and yada, yada, blah, 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 all that crap. And then you got to turn around and go to not Sandusky, Sturgeon Bay. But hell, I mean, what do you do? What do you do? And so that's where we're at. And I don't want to be a tournament director right now. I don't want to be anything to do with the public eye when it comes to making a decision that could affect 100 people, 80 to 100 people, 150, 200, whatever, because one bad freaking article in the damn New York Times or whatever, bass fishing, killing people, whatever. Like, it's a crazy time right now. It's crazy. And so I'm not envious of anybody that has to make those decisions right now. Because there's no way to win. Like I said, some guys might have wanted to go to South Dakota. A bunch of them didn't. Some people may hate Sandusky Bay. Some people may hate the Potomac. You just got to get in where you fit in right now. Got to get in with a town that'll let you come, a state that will let you come, maybe a place that's not a COVID hotspot. There's a lot of variables going into this stuff right now. It's not as simple as black and white. That is for sure. I mean, for sure. All right, our guest today is somebody that I really think a lot of. I've got to spend some time around him over the years. He lives not far from me. He has won over $400,000 in a very short professional career. He had a great regional and local career. He is feared in North Alabama, him and his brother, when they show up at the ramp. Mostly just because they throw a shaky head all the time, just beat everybody's faces in. He has 3 Bassmaster wins, 2 of which were on his home lake, Smith Lake, where he is king. He is the king of Smith. He just wrapped up his 2nd season on the BPT, and on last week's episode, he was either home or driving home, and he made a comment and said, "Hey, I'm not a superstar, but I would love to give you my opinion of everything going on." So we are going to right now try to get on the phone. Mr. Jesse Wiggins.
Hello.
Jesse Wiggins, what are you doing right now, sir?
I am sitting on my back porch sitting under a fan so I don't melt away in this blustering Alabama heat.
Listen, I went and waded a creek today with my brother, and I've never been so hot to be waist deep in the water all freaking day. It's miserable, man.
Yeah, we do that. We wade creek here. I got one behind my house about 300 yards that we wade. We wade as kids, but I hadn't waded it in probably 10 years. But I've been thinking about it. I built the house on this land, and this will be the first year, so I'll probably be wading that. So yeah, we've been doing that too. I used to love doing that.
Oh, that's how we all grew up. I think in the South, it's a really good way to learn. I know I learned a lot about current fishing and the way fish, react to different things. And
yeah, well, like around here, they bite because they don't see lures.
That's right.
And so if you can go in the dead heat of summer and catch fish, in the middle of the day.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I always liked about it.
Shoot, do you catch a lot of spotted bass in the creeks around there?
It's like little red eye. We call them little red eye bass.
Okay.
Like it ain't really a shoal bass, but it's, it's just a little spotted bass. And then you catch some, largemouth 1.5 pounds, 2.5 pounds, but it's mostly smaller ones. But yeah, it's super, super fun. Take a beetle spin or rooster tail or shaky head.
I was going to say, shaky head's got to be on the list for you. I mean.
It used to not be, and then we took that down there, like, when we got older, and we realized we should have been throwing that the whole time down there.
I'm like that with a Ned rig. I used to just always throw, I threw a slider worm all the time in the creek when I was a kid, little 4-inch Charlie Brewer slider worm and stuff like that, and a Zoom fluke. I always threw a fluke around a bunch, but, dude, now it's just like, I'll just take a Ned rig. That's
the way I do it. Anytime I'm on a smallmouth lake, just let us throw a Ned, because they'll bite it.
Just throw a Ned. I mean, them spots like it, them smallmouth. Them largemouth like it too sometimes. I've even caught them rascals over on Gunnersville. So, well, first things first, congratulations. You a new daddy this year in this crazy. What's it like? I asked Atkins this one day. on the podcast. What is it like bringing a kid into this crazy world right now? Is it scaring you to damn death or what?
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy at the hospital. Like, it was, on the maternity wing of the hospital, it was like a ghost town. Like, you couldn't have visitors, so it was me and her only. And then there was like one other family or one other lady that was pregnant on the whole floor, and there was like 2 nurses. It was just crazy because I worked in the hospital forever, so I'm used to just a madhouse during the daytime, and it was just eerie being like nobody there, and like you needed your nurse, and she's like wanting to come in there because she's bored. Like it was just weird.
Wow.
Because they couldn't have people there, and that and it was all like you was only there if you was having a baby, on that part of the hospital, but then, I was thinking about that a couple of days ago. It was like, we're always going to remember this year.
Ain't no doubt about that.
It's going to be crazy, crazy stuff.
Well, that's why
I was like, when he gets older, we're going to get to, just looking towards the future, we're going to get to tell him about this year, the year he was born, and how crazy stuff was.
And how everything changed in this one year, I feel like. I think that's why I keep trying to explain to my boys. I'm like, look, y'all take all this in. I know it's craziness. I know y'all are kids. Y'all are little, but like, don't ever forget this, because this is like a monumental moment, in the whole world right now. Like, we're seeing everything change right before our eyes. But so first question right out of the giddy, where did you get the nickname Crank?
Okay, I love telling the story because it really fits in with getting, fishing. So
yeah,
it used to be Crankbait, but it got shortened to Crank. But
okay,
I think I was 5 years old. And me and I got 2 younger brothers, and we were all playing hide and go seek in the house, out of the house, And I remember we had spilt the tackle box, or of course we took the tackle box apart and rearranged it, every day. We was always messing with fishing stuff. Anyways, we had left the tackle box on the back porch and didn't pick up all the baits or something. I don't remember exactly, but I remember we was playing hide and go seek, so I run out onto the porch to hide, and I remember stepping over that crankbait, seeing it, like, I don't need to step on that. Well, I guess my brother come around the corner or something. Well, I took off running and didn't even think about the crankbaits. Stepped right on it when I was 5. And, of course, I went down screaming, hollering. Daddy come pick me up. And, he tried to get it out and I just kept screaming. I couldn't, I was a baby. I mean, I was a sissy, I guess. I remember screaming constantly. But it did hurt. So, anyways, he's like, well, we're just going to take you to the emergency room. So he took me to the emergency room, and I think they numbed it. They got it out. And he told me, he's like, from now on, we're just going to call you Crankbait. And I remember him saying that when we walked out of the hospital. And from that point on, like, we played baseball and stuff growing up, Dixie Youth and all that. So everybody knew me by Crank. And it just got shortened to Crank. And, like, now in my hometown, people don't even know my real name. So I put Crank on my personal Facebook page because some people didn't even know my real. I remember growing up, like, what's your name? So they just know about Crank. So
that's awesome.
And it just never died.
Well, to be a pro fisherman, I mean, what better nickname than that? I mean, hell.
But it just shows how long that we've been fishing. I mean, it's been with us since, people ask me, say, when did you start fishing? I'm like, well, I don't know. I don't remember not fishing. I was always fishing. So that's kind of how we tell the story. But yeah, it was pretty neat to be a nickname.
And I've seen people, and I've been around when people have called you that, and I've seen people on Instagram, Facebook, or whatever. Good job, Crank. Heck of a week, whatever. And I'm like, there's got to be a really good story behind this. And I've never known. I've never known. Now I know you like to throw an old plug every now and then. Yes. You do like to wind a plug. Every now and then, Smith Lake might get dirty. Every now and then. And you might have to throw one. Yep,
that's about the only time we catch them down here. But if it ever gets dirty, you don't have to have anything else most of the time. Yeah, we do love throwing it. But I wish it was because I love throwing it. I wish it was something that cool, but no, really, it was just I stepped on one when I was 5 and had to go to the emergency room and get it cut out.
Well, I mean, they could call you Shake because you do you have absolutely won a lot of money on that old jighead worm.
Yep, that's what I'm probably sitting here talking to you right now because of that worm, honestly.
That's awesome. So the house the Shaky Head built.
Do what now?
I said the house the Shaky Head built.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's absolutely. I'm sitting on the porch because of the Shaky Head. There's no doubt.
That's too cool, man. That's too cool. Talk about, to me, I was thinking about this today because I've known of you for a long time and just gotten to know you in the last few years, but you are a guy that is the perfect example of what hard work, working your way up through the ranks, not getting ahead of yourself, really. I think a lot of young people need to hear that, because I think a lot of guys want to go from high school tournaments to, the Elite Series and Bass Pro Tour now, where they think that that's the next step.
Yep.
But dude, you did it you've always been proud of your old Stratus. You fished in your old Stratus,
Yep.
and
Yep.
you absolutely cut your teeth, and you still do. You fish as many tournaments as you can get in. Talk a little bit about your journey for folks that don't know Jesse Wiggins as well as maybe they do some of the other guys on tour.
Right.
Talk about your journey and what it meant for you to work hard and go through the right steps.
Yeah, absolutely. Just kind of condense it down. We grew up, my daddy had us fishing from, like I said, I couldn't remember not fishing. And he always fished tournaments and stuff and had a boat when he was younger. But he always found a way to get us fishing on the weekends. Like, we didn't have a boat he sold his boat when he had kids. We didn't have a ton of money. So my grandpa had a boat, my uncles had boats, and we'd go with him, or I'd go with my uncles. Me and my brother went with my Uncle Philip, more times than I can count. And then Daddy would always have us fishing on the weekends or something. We was always hunting or fishing every weekend, and every time he was off work. So he got us fishing. And then me and my brother got old enough to start fishing like on our own, driving to the lake on our own. So we started teaming up in team tournaments. And I remember when I was young, we wasn't teaming, and like he fished a tournament by himself one time, and he had to have been 15 years old, like just a permit, and took it, and he blew us out. This is when I realized, like, okay, I want him as my partner. That.
And this is Jordan. This is your brother Jordan.
Jordan.
Okay.
He's a year and a half younger. So I'm just kind of telling a story how we started fishing together. I mean, we'd always fish together, but not really tournaments. So when he won that tournament, I mean, it was just like a little, Saturday tournament, but he like blew everybody away by himself. And I was like, okay, I'm going to fish with him from now on. He catches them, So from that point on, it was me and him if we fished a tournament, we was a team. So we borrowed a boat. It was a family friend. We used his boat. It was a 70 Johnson on an old low. We took it to Smith. Now the whole time we've never had a depth finder. I got my first depth finder when I bought that Stratus in 2012. But so we just fished Smith. We'd put the boat in and start fishing down the bank. We got a bite. We marked it with our mind, And so eventually we figured out that, you go back to that spot and you fish, fish places. You don't really fish areas. You fish exact cast. Well, we learned all that on our own fishing those tournaments. So we got really good at Smith, because we just, we went 3 nights a week. So we got older. My grandpa had a boat. We was graduated high school, and we wore out my grandpa's old bumblebee. He had an old bumblebee. I'm talking about we wore it out. Had a 200 Johnson Venom on it. Had to spray ether in it the last couple of years of driving it to get it to crank. It was so cold-natured. We would be out there. The motor, it would just barely crank. And then I remember one time we'd won a big tournament at the dam, Smith Lake Dam. I think we won like $3,500, and the boat didn't crank all day. Not one time did that boat start. We just fished on the trolling motor all day. And there was 2 tournaments going on. We got in both of them, and luckily won it. That's probably my favorite fishing story there, just not cranking the boat.
Unreal. Won 2 big tournaments in the same day.
So, but like you said, we never got ahead of ourselves. I knew I didn't have any money. Got out of high school, had zero money. I was like, I had money just to get around on, but no money in the bank, no daddy's check coming in, nothing like that.
Right.
And I always tell people this is, like, do not ever let somebody tell you that it's a rich man's game. Yeah, it's expensive once you get there.
It is.
But you can make it with $0. Like, I hate hearing people say that, because, if I would have believed that, I would have never got to do it.
You'd have never even tried.
Yeah. I would have never tried. So, like when I was in the 9th grade, I had a guy tell me, one of my student teacher, he was a student teacher, and I wrote a paper, of course, wanting to be a professional fisherman, it was a career day. And he read my paper out loud and was like laughing in my face. Like, you can't do that. You realize how tough those guys are, how good they are, all the sponsors. And I'm like, and I just I was like, man, that sucks. He just embarrassed me in front of the class, And like, why would a teacher tell you couldn't do something, So anyway, from that point on, I was like, I got to prove that guy wrong. Like, that was one of my driving factors, is proving him wrong. But anyways, to go fast forward a little bit, I got out of high school and I went to college, and I wanted something I could work 12-hour shifts and I could fish the rest of the time. So I applied for respiratory therapy here at the local community college, and it's a hospital job. You work 12-hour shifts, so you can work 3 days. You was off 4, and I'm like, well, that'd be perfect for. I can get to fish the most doing that. And luckily, my mama let me stay at home. Like, I knew that I wasn't going to be able to afford to do all this, and I told her, I was like, just give me 5 years, and I think to see if I can make something happen. So like the 3rd year, I think I saved up enough, paid a down payment on that old Stratus. It was a 2008 Stratus with a Yamaha on it, and son, we thought we had the best boat in the world. I think it was 2012, so the boat was 4 years old. It was 2008, and I thought, me and Jordy, we went fishing the night I brought it home from the dealership. We went fishing in that sucker. So it was it had like an HDS 10 on it and an HDS 7, and that was the first time we'd ever even had a depth finder. So at that point, we started going to other lakes around Alabama. And then 2013 or 14, the Alabama Bass Trail come along. And we're like, well, let's fish that, see how we do, around the state. And so I would go, my work schedule allowed me to go and practice a couple days before the tournament started. So I would go and practice, and Jordan would just show up on Saturday most of the time. And it taught me how to find fish on different lakes, because most of the time I was by myself. So ended up, we did well on the Alabama Bass Trail, and then like the opens would come, like the Bassmaster opens would come to Smith every now and then. So I was like, I want to fish those. So I fished one in like 2012, and I think I finished 50th or something. And so they come again in 2014, and it was fishing the Alabama Bass Trail and had some success. And so I was like, well, and that's when they did the win in, you're in. You win one, you make the classic. So I was like, well, let's fish all of them. So I fished all 3 in the division, and ended up finishing 2nd in the points. And everybody's like, man, you qualified for the Elite Series. I'm like, well, I don't know what that means, because I have $0 to my name.
You're like,
I'd won.
Congratulations, here's a credit card.
Yeah, exactly. I think I'd won $7,000, at Smith. So, and I think I used that to pay. I bought a better truck, because the truck I was pulling with was a sport track, a Ford sport track, like a 2003 Ford sport track, trying to pull that big boat, that V6, all around the country. It just didn't work out. So I used that money I won at Smith to buy me a better truck. So I didn't have any money still, but I was like, well, heck, I don't know if I got lucky or what, but I finished 2nd in the points in the opens, which is, pretty stout field of fishermen, So I was like, well, maybe I can fish. So anyways, the opens didn't come back to Smith the next year in 15. So in 16, they was coming back, and we've just still been fishing Alabama Bass Trail and, just fishing stuff locally. And so I said in 16, my plan is to win the Open on Smith, which is $50,000 plus a classic berth, and then, do well in the other 2 tournaments, qualify for the elites again. And if I do, I'm going to give it a shot. Because, I was still at home. I didn't have any kids. I wasn't married. And this was my plan. It took 5 years from 2012. But, like I told her, I told my mom, I said, just give me 5 years and, we'll see what happens. So, anyways, 2016 come along the season, and I fished the opens, and lo and behold, they come to Smith, perfect time. The fish moved up on the bed the night before the tournament, and I just murdered them like the whole time, just murdered spot. Like it was like it was the easiest fishing I'd ever done. Jeez. And I won that open, and did well in the other 2 tournaments, qualified for the elites, and just started fishing off that money I won. So it's like, I didn't feel bad about spending the money, because I'd won it fishing. So I'm like, well, I'm going to put it right back into fishing. So if I lost it, I wouldn't, I won it fishing. So I didn't feel bad about putting it back into fishing.
Absolutely.
And that's how I just started fishing the elites. And when I started the elites in 2017, I had enough to pay 3 deposits. So, we got to pay deposits then, and I think I had enough to fish. I think it was 4 tournaments and 3 deposits. So if I wouldn't have caught anything, I would have been sent back home, which I love it like that. Like now I got a little bit of money, but like I'm still driven, but I loved it back then, knowing if you don't catch nothing here, you probably not going to get to go next week, So that
makes you work hard.
Oh, it just makes every bite mean so much more. Like, I don't even see how I handled the stress. Like, it wasn't really stressful, because I was loving every single minute of it.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It's because you're born to do it. It's not stressful. Atkins is like that. Jordan Lee's like that. There's something about y'all's guys that are around y'all's age group that are just, y'all are different, man. And I know you're a little older than a couple of those guys I mentioned, but Connell, I mean, y'all are just cool under pressure. I've always thought that about y'all. And that's 90% of this game's between your freaking ears. You know that. No, I mean, it's between your ears. You can in a way outwork people. Carl Jacobson said this on Boats and Pros, that deal I do on YouTube. He said this when I interviewed him. He said his problem when he first came over here was he tried to outwork everybody. He thought he could just outwork everybody. He said bass don't care. They don't care at all. He said I was actually outworking myself, a little bit. And so it's right between the ears, man. Yeah. So you had zero sponsors basically.
Exactly.
When you started.
When 2017 come, Jinko Fishing, and I met them because I think they had reached out to Jordan Lee, and Jordan was already sponsored by Strike King, so Jordan gave them my number, and they called me, and so they gave me $5,000. That was my only paying sponsor. So TH gave me my jack plate and stuff for my boat, and Power Pole gave me power poles, and like Honda, I think I had 50% discount off my motor that year, and my Bass Cat percentage off the Bass Cat. But as far as paying sponsors, I had $5,000.
So you had to make it work.
Was one tournament entry fee, but I had some money I had some money left over from that open. I think I paid my truck off, and I paid my Stratus off. I think I had like 2 years of payments left, and I paid that off. And but I got that Bass Cat the week before the season started, and luckily I had a new boat and a new motor, and because that Stratus was on its last leg. Like I had more. I put so much.
It had some hours on it.
Lord have mercy. I just want to tell this story right quick. The last Open the one I won in 2017 in Florida, which was a complete fluke. I don't know how. I mean, I know how I won it. I got lucky as crap, found the best spot on the lake, but won that Open. And the next to the last day of the tournament, like the second day of the tournament, I was running in, and my motor hadn't been running good all week. Like it hadn't been running good at all, and I knew it was about to go because it done blew up like 5 times, so I knew what it was going to do. And so I was running in, and it made this awfulest racket, and I was like, oh, gosh. And I had a good bag. I knew I was going to be in the top 12. So I get back, and I think I was in 4th going in the final day, and I told Matt Lee, I said, Matt, I need to borrow your boat. I said, I think I can win the tournament, but my boat's not going to make it. And I wasn't even running that far, but I was like, I just don't think it's going to make it. He's like, heck yeah, dude, just take it. I'll take yours home, and you bring mine. So he let me borrow his boat. Anyways, long story short, I won the tournament out of his boat, and I get my boat back from him, and I go to Smith like the next day or something. It was the first time I cranked it up since Florida, and I crank it up at the dam, and before I even get to the mouth of the dam, the motor blows up.
Oh, no.
So I wouldn't have won that tournament if Matt wouldn't let me borrow his boat. So it's just like stuff
happens. It just works out, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like this. You prepare as much as you can prepare, and you're going to get in the position to get lucky. That's the way I see it.
That's it. I agree.
You just put yourself in the position to get lucky, and you got to take advantage of it.
Like Jacob Wheeler catching a 10-pounder at Chickamauga, a lot of people would say luck or whatever, but no, it's being on the right place, throwing the right thing. And yes, that could have been a 3-pounder, but he was also catching a lot of other fish on that spot too. I mean, fishing is a lot of luck, but we don't get lucky because we were just throwing over our shoulder blindfolded and backwards. It's because we knew what we were supposed to be doing or thought we did. Well, let's jump in. So that's all, dude. And like I said, y'all make sure you're following Jesse if you're not on everything, because he's one of the real deal guys. At the first Elite Series tournament you fished, you almost won it.
Absolutely, yeah. Like I said,
and just kept rolling.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I've been very fortunate from 2016 to now. I've been very fortunate. But yes, I have. It ain't like I didn't ever fish. I put my time on.
No, yeah. So when the decision came, when all this craziness in our sport broke loose, and there's going to be this new deal, and you're hearing about that, is one of your draws to that obviously the entry fee thing? Because if you're a young guy, like you said, because this is something that Tim Horton has said on the show, and that Gerald Sporey and I had to talk about, and I get it. For a young guy, like you said, hey, congratulations, you made the Elite Series. Now we need your deposit. It was the same one on the FLW Tour. Hey, you made the FLW Tour, but so that was a big deal for you.
Absolutely. So when I made the Elites, in 17, the entry fees was 48,000. So, like you said, congrats. We need 48,000 or at least 8,000. You get to go to the first tournament. So anyways, I said this as soon as I qualified for the elites, they'd send us surveys and stuff. And I'm like, guys, we got to do something about this entry fee. This ain't feasible for, a normal, cause if I wouldn't have won those opens, even if I would have qualified, if I'd have just finished second at the open on Smith instead of winning it, and I would have still won the points or, did good in the points, I still couldn't have fished because I wouldn't have won that tournament. And I didn't have, you can't get enough sponsors to pay entry fees level of the Elite Series just by doing well in the Opens if you don't know somebody. You got to do well first to get sponsors if you don't know anybody. And I didn't know a single soul in the fishing industry, So, I feel like if you know somebody or, you got a business partner or something that, you can do it.
But it's still not easy to get that money, though.
Exactly.
I mean, it's still not easy. Even if you know everybody, it's
$80,000 away if you don't catch anything.
That's exactly right.
That's what I told them. I kept telling them, I was like, we got to do something. Every survey I would get, we got to do something just to make it feasible for, somebody like me or, somebody that has a family to take this leap, because you don't want to, the next KVD could be coming up, but if he don't get that break to win that tournament, he may not ever, get to fish. But anyways, I kept saying that. So when the Bass Pro Tour got announced, they told us you're probably going to it's probably going to be you can pay. When they gave us our first contracts, we was going to pay entry.
Right. I remember
there
that.
Was so much money for the payout. There was enough, still to pay $100,000 first place and pay down the 40th, which is $6,000. And so it'd be pretty much the same payout as the elites, but no entry fee if we voted on that. So
absolutely.
Of course, everybody voted no entry fee, and I was told that's probably how everybody was going to vote, and that's what we did. So that's 100% my reason of wanting to go over there. And I was, we're trying to build something to where if a guy qualifies up, now that they bought FLW, guy qualifies up, to the highest level of Major League Fishing, there was going to be no entry fee. So that was the whole, that was 90% of my decision making. And why not that be? If this is a business or you're running you're trying to operate yourself like a business or make money, why would you not get a $50,000 raise?
Yeah, $50,000. Yeah, to the good before you ever make a cast.
Exactly.
And I've said that on here multiple times that if you get that invite that first year,
right,
you can't turn it down.
Right.
I mean, or I shouldn't say you can't, because there were guys that did, and there are guys that are doing very well at Bass that stayed, and
yes.
It's working out for everybody. Bass made some changes because of all this stuff. But my point being, it's a no-brainer to have a fishing tournament with no entry fees. But now with everything going on, I mean, what are your feelings now? I mean, is it frustrating that it's changing? Is it like with this year not getting to fish more entry fee free tournaments? What was your mindset on that when they said, "Hey guys, we're going to give you guys an opportunity to fish FLW so you can still fish for money, but you're going to pay entry fees to that, and we're not going to have as many BPT events." Just talk about, I mean, what's your mindset on that?
So I wasn't just livid, but because we kind of knew that something was, I think with this COVID deal, they pretty much told us as soon as we started having canceling tournaments, they're like, guys, the sponsors ain't liking us not fishing, all this, and they kind of told us this is what they were just telling us. And
right.
So when they told us we had entry fees, it sucks. I mean, it does suck. I mean, nobody wants to give somebody $40,000 to go do their job. It's a 40. So the entry fees are going to be $40,000, but if you don't get a single bite all year, don't catch a single fish, you're going to lose $14,000. So that's not. I mean, I'm not going to say I'm sitting here happy with that, but it's better than being out $48,000 for sure. Once you sign, if you don't catch anything.
Now talk about that for a second. Why are you only out $14,000? Explain that.
So they're going to pay back every. I don't know if they're paying back every spot. I think they're paying back every spot.
So everybody in the field essentially will get a check.
Yes.
But you're going to pay entry fees.
But it's not going to be enough to cover your entry fee if you don't, at least make the couple cuts.
You got to catch them.
Yeah, you still got to catch them to get all your entry fee money back. So, I mean, it's not, like I said, I'm not happy with it by any means. But, I mean, they just told us, we got to do this. This is our best option to keep, to make sure that not really for the anglers, but they just told us this is what we got to do. and they didn't make any promises about 2 years down the road.
Right.
There's gonna be no entry fees, but they said for these 2 years, this year and next year, we're going to have to pay this entry fee. And I mean, and that I don't want to get into the what they tell us.
No, don't do anything to get you in trouble at all. I
mean, I don't feel like I get in trouble, but I feel like it's our business meeting, and I don't want to just
No, of course not. Of course not.
But they make us they're very open with us, like more open than like we was at Bass. You never heard anything. You just only thing you heard was send your check here. So I mean it's I don't know.
So you do still feel like it's very angler driven, angler centric right now.
I mean, they let us in on everything. Now this decision, we didn't get to vote on this decision. I mean, we voted on all the other decisions. Like I heard you talk about last week about them cutting the payout.
Yeah, and I addressed that before you came on, and I wanted to address that because they spent that money or distributed that through the field, and I wanted to say that. Yes,
we voted on.
I found that out afterwards.
Yeah, they let us vote on that one. I just want to defend them for a minute.
Yeah, for sure, and I applaud them for that. Like I said, not as many events this year. Hey, if everybody gets a check, that's great. And for the guys, if the guys want to take that money and put it back into the FLW Super Tournaments or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, I talked about that before you came on. Yeah, for sure. All I saw on that, and I'll completely say jump the gun, but all I saw on that was a payout. And I had freaking however many people send it to me. And that was not explained, but then I talked to a couple guys that fished, and they said, hey, listen to the podcast, same as you. Hey, listen to the podcast. No, that's not how that went down. And my thing is I always want to be, if I can be straightened out if I get something wrong. So, yeah, I talked about that before you came on. So you did. Okay. And it was like the heavy hitters thing, letting everybody fish that tournament because y'all were losing events and everybody getting a check. I thought that was good. I do think that's good. Question, dude, you're just a old school guy for a young guy, but you're old school at heart. I feel like. Did you like the idea of fishing the FLWs, or were you like, man, I fought to get to the mountaintop, so to speak,
right?
And now I got to go back and fish that. I mean, talk about that because I know you're fishing them and you did well at Chickamauga, but talk about that. Is that, I mean, you love bass fishing, and I know a couple of my other buddies over there are like, I just love fishing. I'm going to go fishing. It sucks to pay an entry fee, but is that kind of where you're at with that?
Yeah. I mean, I know, the only thing, really the part I hated about it the most, when they told us they was going to pay $10,000 down to $100 with a $5,000 entry fee, out of 200 guys, I feel like I ain't saying nothing against the other guys, but I feel like I should be able
to do
your
job, yes. You do your job, you're going to get a check.
Do my job, I can win $5,000. So you tell old redneck, hey, you get to go fish a tournament. If you make top 100, you get to clear $5,000.
I get it.
I mean, I want to fish it, but I felt bad for the guys. Like, they're out there fishing for points on Chickamauga, which is a very small lake for 200 boats in the summertime. So what if I'm on a hole
that
a guy could make a check on or get points on? So when
he's trying to get to your no entry fee level.
Yes. So I fished away from everybody. There was one spot I fished where Clayton Batts pulled up on me, and I was catching him. I was like, dude, come in, just cast right here. Like, I was like, y'all are fishing for points. Like, I think I got enough to make a check. I was like, I don't care. But I'm like, I don't care to fish around people. I'm like, bring it on in. Show me how to catch them. That's the way I feel like. So, so I kind of I said, I'm leaving. I gave it to him. But I just felt like I didn't really. But I know it was, our points didn't count, but they still got points. But it's still like on a lake like that, I could be fishing that hole, and that guy don't get to fish it. He would have got to fish it if I wasn't there.
That's right.
So, and catch them. So I kind of felt bad about that. But then I talked to several of the FLW guys, and they liked the fact that we was getting the payout. I don't know. So
yeah, those guys are split on it, I think. Some of them are really all about it. Now, I think this new announcement that y'all are going to be allowed to fish next year if you want to has ruffled a lot more feathers than this year. Because I think this year everybody's like, hey, let's just figure it out. It's a crazy-ass year. We gotta come up with something, Right. And but now I think next year, like, hey, y'all are going to get to do it again if you want to. I think there's some guys that are like, yeah, I call bullcrap on that.
Right.
For sure.
And I think then the reason MLF, they're letting us fish them is because they want the guys in the Bass Pro Tour with the bigger names and stuff to fish the tournaments because more people's going to pay attention.
Absolutely. I get it.
I mean,
I get the play.
So I get why they're doing it. But yes, I don't know. Like, are we going to get to count our points? Like, I don't know about that part yet. I don't know if we're going to get to qualify for a championship. They haven't told us that.
Are those guys going to, or some of those guys going to get to go to Red Credit? You know what I mean? Like, is it going to be one of those kind of things?
So if they did do something like that, where they could make a championship that they wouldn't have originally made, it may make it
a little easier.
Yes.
And there's still a lot of those guys that'll probably be like, hey, bring it on. This is fun. Because I know a lot of guys had fun in the event. But
if it was me, like, just fishing, I would love it. Like, I want to see how I do.
Oh, yeah.
Guys. And if I'm doing this to try to make a living doing it, I want to see if I can compete against those guys that I'm going to be competing against anyways.
I get it.
So that's the way I see it. But I'm not, like, I love competition and fishing. Like, that's what against the best. That's why. And then that's another reason why we was talking about entry fees. When MLF was, or when the Bass Pro Tour was decided, that's where all the guys were going. And that's who I grew up watching. So I was like, well, if I could fish against those guys, that's where I want to fish. And plus a no entry fee. So that was a big decision in it too.
I've heard a lot of people say that too, because it's.
There was like, when Gerald and, all those guys, Kevin and Skeet and all those go over there, like, well, I wanted to fish against those guys my whole life. So that's where I'm going to fish too. So, but yeah, I just don't know about the FOW, like, getting to fish those tournaments. I don't know how they're going to do it to make both sides happy. And I hope they do something to make it worthwhile for both sides, for sure.
I do too, because, me, I fished the tour for a few years, and I have to say, like, and it's no big secret. I bailed out on it this year because I just didn't know where everything was headed. Had a lot of other things going on too, but it's family-wise and career-wise outside of fishing. But it's one of those things where I think if I'm still there, if I'm getting ready to pay my entry fees and I'm an FLW guy and tried and true, it would have stung. It would have stung to say, hey, we're fixing to give 80 of these guys a chance. But now the same could be said, though, and I think you would agree, for Elite Series guys fishing the Opens, or
true.
Tour guys fishing the Toyotas, Costas, whatever, over the years. Same thing.
That's why Bassmaster lets them fish the Opens, is because they want, the guys.
Absolutely.
That's the truth for both. I've heard Bass say that. They want us
no doubt
fishing those. So, but there's no shame in it. You got a business or you got your company, you want the most people following it. You like, I get it. But you also, you got to make sure the anglers are happy.
That's right.
They're the one paying the bills. So,
that's exactly right. Yeah, those are your customers at the end of the day. They're your employees and customers, which is a weird situation to be in. I will say this for the Super Tournament. It was interesting to watch. 200 and something boats in a pro tournament is way too many, I feel like, now.
Oh, it is.
Especially like you said, on Lake Like Chick. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out at La Crosse, because I've only been there once, and I can't remember if it fished small or not, really. I feel like it kind of did in an FLW with like 160 boats. But, and then you guys are going to go, sounds like, to Sandusky or Potomac or somewhere instead of – what's the deal with St. Clair? Can you clear that up? Is it –
They just told us Detroit wasn't allowing big tournaments. That's all I've heard.
Okay.
And they said that, like you said, it's either going to be Sandusky or Potomac, which I hope it's not Potomac. I've never been there.
I've heard that from a few guys.
I've watched every single video. And that's another thing. I watch every single bass show. People, I was reading some of the comments on your video before I come on, and a guy said the MLF does too much coverage.
I saw that one too. I don't think I responded to that comment yet. Yeah, I thought that was silly. Yeah.
I was like, come on now. I watch as soon as Bassmaster Live comes on, I'm watching it. MLF, as soon as I put the boat on the trailer after I got my teeth kicked in, I cut it on and to watch it. I just don't understand why everybody's so negative about getting to watch more fishing. That's the thing. And then as far as MLF, you get it. I see the comments. There's a lot of haters.
A lot of negative, man. There's a lot of negative.
But the only thing about MLF, I will say this. It's the only show that I walked in my grandmother's or mother's house, and this is before I was on the Bass Pro Tour. They would be watching MLF and have it recorded on their DVR.
Really, on Discover or on Outdoor Channel?
Yes. So there's people watching that show. I hate to tell them, but there's people watching.
No, there's definitely people watching. And I think a lot of the fans, I think this year, and I said this before you came on too, because Sturgeon Bay was a stupid good event. Like it was good. If you like watching fish get caught, because I had buddies of mine that normally don't watch it as much that were like, damn, them guys are killing them. They're talking it up. And I think the minimum helped y'all a tremendous amount. I think for a lot of people, and this obviously me and what I talk about on here and stuff. For me, I think it's I think it's confusion for a lot of people. I think it's where you get a lot of fans. Fans don't like change, and I think there's a lot there. It's split. You got half the bass fishing crowd that's like, I hate the format. See, I'm not a format hater. Like that's the weird thing is I get lumped into that sometimes, but the format doesn't I don't care because the cream rises to the top regardless, right? Like
Jacob Wheeler and Jordan Lee is still going to win.
Yeah, that's what that's Atkins made a really good point on here. He said that sometimes for him the format's actually harder because if Wheeler's got 100 pounds in a day, he knows he's got to make freaking 75 good casts to catch up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he said in a 5-fish day, I ain't got to make but 5 or 6 good casts all day long. And there's a lot of truth to that. So I will say that I've never been. I think the format does confuse a lot of people. I think from a simplicity standpoint, like I said it before, Lucas caught over 200 pounds, but I still can't tell you how many bass he had to get that. And I went to county school, so I can't do that math real quick anyways. So it wouldn't matter. But you tell me you got 5 for 37, I can figure that out pretty quick.
Right.
That's just how we grew up. So I think that's a lot of it. But to me, me and Darian were talking about this week, like, I would hate the format if I was in it because mentally for me, I know me and fishing, and I know that I couldn't hear, hey, Luke, Jesse Wiggins just caught another one. Hey, Luke, Jesse Wiggins. I couldn't listen to that crap all day. Like, there's no way. I'd be ready to go home by about lunch, Yeah. For sure.
It's definitely, like, I feel like a lot of people that is never, like, I didn't, like, have no idea about that score tracker, but once you get in the boat and it's so much more, like, the excitement you feel, like, say you're like on the verge of getting a check, you're right on the verge, you got 10 minutes left, and you're like, dude, I just need,
in your gut, you feel it in your gut.
That's the feeling you feel the whole time when they say lines in. It's like insane. It just, it's addicting. Like it's that feeling you just love about tournament. And that's what, and I feel like the guys that love it, just absolutely like love that feeling. That's my feeling. And I'm not one, like I sucked it up at MLF. I finished 50 in the points last year and I finished 68th this year. So it's not like I have no way caught them good. Like last year I had a few decent tournaments. This year sucked city. So it ain't like I'm out here whacking them and love the form, like love it and catch them in this format. But I just like that. Like just an example, like yesterday, a guy, the marketing guy from MLF called me and said, like, I know it's, they probably called everybody, but he's like, if you got any new sponsor, if you got a sponsor, an old sponsor or something, just let us, if you got a potential sponsor, if you want to get us on the call, we'll tell them, how we structure things, all the MLF, the coverage. And it's like I would have, like, the only call ever, like, and I don't want to say, like, I'm sounding bashing Bassmaster, but the only call you got over there was like, hey, you're a day late on your entry fee. You need to pay me. And, like, I'm like, so MLF does all this stuff for the anglers, and I see everybody just ripping on them, and I'm like, y'all don't know, like, y'all need to know both sides of the story. Like, I get people don't like some people don't like the format, but it's 1 year old or 2 years old now, 1.5 years old. Like, I don't, like they say, Rome wasn't built in a day. Just give it time, and like they're making, like, I feel like, every one of our meetings we talk about, like, the 2 pound minimum, like, was a big time change, and it helped. I feel like it helped a lot.
For sure.
It didn't help me out any, but I'm just saying it helped. It helped, which I wouldn't have caught them in a 2-fish limit. Like, it didn't matter. I just sucked all year. So, but I'm like, they're actually, like, they care. Like, I don't know. I don't want to say, it ain't like I'm bashing Bassmaster. Like, I still love Bassmaster. Like I said, I watch all the coverage. I follow along. I still talk to, Kelly J and all them over there. And Gerald, I love it. And people talking about, well, guys are going to leave. Let them leave. They want to fish a different format. It ain't like Like, who cares if they leave? Like, that don't matter. Like, they want to fish over there. That's fine with me. Let them fish over there. I mean, it don't matter. They want to fish over. Like people want to make it like it's a competition. Like we hate each other and all this. Like, I don't care.
Well, there's
go over there.
you don't, but there are guys on both sides, and you know this though. There are people on both sides, whether it's from an organizational standpoint, people, the higher ups, whatever, that don't like the other organizations for for obvious reasons, because it's fierce competition. And there are people that I try, dude, and I get labeled biased, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I know I'm hard on them. I get it. I know I'm hard. I also feel like that I bring an angle to it that a lot of people don't know some of the things going on.
Yes.
And I think that that's good in the sport. And I would say, for the people that don't like what I have to say, if you guys are the news right now, this is what I was trying to say this last week, because I had somebody say, you shouldn't be talking about MLF. I'm like, it's the news right now. They announce entry fees. It's what I'm talking about. It is what I'm talking about right now. It's what everybody's talking about right now.
Yes. Yeah.
But if Bass, and I talked about Bass a ton on this episode because they're up there in New York and it's kind of a crazy time and a lot of anglers didn't want to go. If Bass had something going on that was news breaking in a negative light, I'm going to cover it just like I cover that. It just hasn't been that way lately. Now, they did have some guys pissed that didn't want to go to New York, and I spent 30 minutes talking about that before you came on here. It's I don't know. I just think that I was grateful to see when you commented. It made me laugh. Hey, if you want to get somebody on here that's I forget what you called yourself, a bottom dweller, and I just rolled my eyes at you when I read that comment. But then I had a lot of people. I've had several people this week. They must have seen your comment, but they're like, "Please get Jesse Wiggins on. Please get Jesse Wiggins on." So I really appreciate you coming on, dude, and being as honest and transparent. And I knew you would be, because this is what I think people label. We live in a Chevy versus Ford world, if that makes sense. People get really brand loyal, and and it's the same, bass fishermen are like, oh, you run a Honda? I'm Mercury for life, boy. Yeah. Enjoy his time at the service yard. We live in that world. Oh, you run Lawrence? Well, let me tell you what you're missing. I mean, we live in that kind of world, especially in fishing. So it is Bass versus MLF. When that divide was created, it definitely became that. People pick sides. They're going to continue to pick sides. I watch both. I have great friends at both. I pull for people at both. And I like to see people, love to see. I know Justin Lucas is the biggest MLF fan out there from what I hear. I know Justin really likes it. Was proud to see him win. He probably disagrees with a lot of things I got to say, but I know that Justin and I can have a civil conversation just like you and I did.
Yeah,
and that's fair. That's what we should be able to do in this country. Like you said with Donald Trump or Joe Biden, whatever side of the fence you're on in that, we should be able to have a civil conversation, not rip each other's throats out over what we believe.
Right. And like you said about the Ford and it's Ford versus Chevy, the way I think I see it a little different than a lot of those guys, because like I would just be happy to have a new truck. Like that's the way I see it. I get that.
Like, I
just get and so that's why I get like, dude, y'all are. But I get it. Like, but the thing about it is, like I don't want to just sit here and tell people that they're doing something, but like a lot of the guys, they're watching both shows. Like even if you hate one and
1,000%.
You can't watch that. Like even just like like Bassmaster when Gross caught those two big ones that last day. Dude, that gave me chills.
If that don't get you fired up, what does? Yeah.
And then when, like last week, when Mark Daniels was coming back on Lucas the last few minutes, dude, I was like, I could not.
Or Iconelli barely squeaking in there by an ounce or whatever.
That stuff, like, so I just don't understand why people don't like, man, we get awesome coverage both. Like, we can watch all this fishing. And I get it that the weigh-ins, it took the live part out of but people can come to when we take out of the water, like people can come out there and shake our hands just like it was, you can't do that if you watch Brett Favre win the Super Bowl with the Packers, you don't get to go up and shake his hand after the tournament. When Jordan Lee won the Red Crest or the heavy hitters, all you have to do is go up and shake his hand because, there's fences up. Our guys are normal guys. And, so there's all kind of ways, like, when I see, people talking, well, you never get to meet him. Like, yeah, you do. Just go out there and meet them and, talk to them. And so it's like, I don't know. I feel like MLF gets a very bad rap, and they're really trying really hard for the anglers to make it a viable business for us, in which it's kind of hard saying that now that we got to pay an entry fee.
Right.
But like I said, at the end of the day, we're going to be out $14,000, and that's a long leap from when I first started in 2000, which I feel like it's a long time ago, but it was only 3 years ago. Of you was going to be out $48,000 if you didn't get a single bite.
Yeah.
So if you go from that, it sucks. You need to put me on record saying it. Trust me, I do not want to pay an entry fee, but it's like I said, it's better than it could be. It could be way worse. And I think that's as we get immune to, like, it's almost like the fishing world or the anglers got immune to paying those $40,000 entry fees. And
it's just always the way the way it's been.
So, like I said, this is the second year. Just like people's just got to give it a chance. Like, that's what I feel like.
Do you think they'll make any format changes?
To bass next year, I may fish the opens next year and try to requalify.
Right, you may not like it after next year. We don't. Yeah, you don't know.
I'm just saying, they're doing it. I know people hate they say the 1 pound deal, which that's over with now. So
yeah, it's been.
Which it was never like that in the first place, because if it was, I would have won every tournament. And it's not like you don't get to take a shaky head and go down the bank and catch 100 and win every tournament.
No, that's not the case. That's definitely not the case. I've argued that's from day one.
Right, and I have seen you say that.
I have argued that. The people that jump on the format, people hate the format, and I will say that, that's obvious, but I've never been a format hater, just from the standpoint of, I don't want to try to beat y'all catching 200 pounds. I don't want to, whether it's 1 pounders, 2 pounders, half pounders. I don't want to try to do that. It's just a different deal all the way around.
At the end of the day, if it don't matter if it was 5 fish, 20 fish, 30 fish, Jacob Wheeler or Jordan Lacey, so it don't matter.
Does it get to the point where that gets boring? You're like, damn it.
So this is funny. I don't think Matt would care for me to say this, but me and Matt roomed together. So it was Matt and Jordan fished on the same day last week. And Matt said they was about 3/4 of the way through the day. And he hadn't really had many updates from his guy. And his guy called out the leading weight, I think, or his official. And Matt said, "Let me guess, Jordan Lee's winning." And he's like, "No, but he's in second place." and Matt said he hadn't had an update all day, but he already knew what was going down.
Listen, if I was Matt, this is just me, I can't imagine being in the same sport as my brother. And Matt is a fantastic freaking fisherman. Yeah. Made the classic, catches them, great promoter. He's great for the sport. I love Matt Lee. Matt Lee's one, but I can't imagine, I'd stab him at Christmas. I would never buy him a Christmas present. I'd never get him a birthday present. I would lie to him and say, "Hey, Mama and them's having Christmas a day early." And I just all the time. I just make sure I never had to see him. And I know he's proud for Jordan. But
if it was my brother, I would be fishing with him at home every 2 seconds.
No
I would know
kidding.
Every single bait he had. How he rigs it up, how he ties his knots. I would be.
That's a great point. Yeah. I would wear him out. Hey, you ready to go again to Gunnersville? You ready to go again to Smith?
Yeah.
Oh, exactly. Man. Well, dude, listen, I've kept you a long time, and I can't thank you enough. This was awesome. I think a lot of people already know you, but I hope that they learned even more about you from this. And I really appreciate you talking with me about everything going on, just because as a talking head, quote, in the sport, just like any other talking head in any sport, it's always good to get stuff from the people that it's affected, the most. Yes. You can sit here and say, this is good, this is bad from a standpoint, but it's always good to get dirt from the folks involved. So, dude, I really appreciate it.
Heck yeah. Thank you for having me on. No problem. Anytime.
Absolutely, buddy. Can't believe it took us this long.
I know, and I probably got a little sidetracked telling how I grew up fishing.
No, that's beautiful. That's awesome.
Right. And I won't pay that if people do have to listen to this thing and hear one thing, just don't let somebody tell you can't be a pro fisherman because it's a rich man's sport, because you can. I feel like if you work hard and know how to fish a little bit, you're gonna have opportunities. So just keep it up. Real quick, my main sponsor is Jackal this year, or the last couple years, and I met my Jackal guy fishing the opens. He was a co-angler, and he was just barely working for Jackal, and now he is the main U.S. guy for Jackal. So
that's awesome.
Like I said, just you fish, you keep do not
just keep fishing.
Don't give a reason for somebody not to like you, and then I feel like things start to happen.
Yeah, don't start a podcast. That's awesome though. That's what I tell you. I get messages every day, just like you do, Instagram, Facebook. People want to know how many young guys. How do I need to try to do this? Yada yada. That's what I tell them. Like, you gotta figure out how to meet the most people you can in this industry with a rod and reel in your hand, and just go and catch them.
Catch fish.
Catch fish.
Don't catch Instagram followers.
Catch fish. Yeah, don't pay for Instagram followers. Don't pay for YouTube crap. Figure it out. Fish.
Yep.
Work your tail off.
No, like I said, there's nothing. I have nothing against YouTube fishing.
No, of course.
That's awesome. But if you want to be, fish
tournaments.
I hate saying professionally, but fish.
Professional tournaments. Yes.
Catch bass, and then it comes after that. I promise.
No doubt.
Everybody, like Gerald, was catching bass before he started making funny videos.
Dude, that is such a great.
I mean, he still is. Catching.
Yes.
People's like, "Oh, Gerald." I'm like, dude, he's won 2 Angler of the Year. What are you talking about? He don't catch them. Like, he whacks them.
Listen,
I've been fishing with him. He is one of the best fishermen.
He is. Darian and I talk about this almost weekly. Every time I get in the boat with G, which is not as much as we used to, but he blows my mind every single time.
Yep.
Every single time. I mean,
thinks about.
Oh my gosh.
Like, I just wish my mind worked.
Oh, it's amazing, man. So, yeah, anytime I see a comment, somebody saying, well, Gerald went back to bass and he's getting his ass kicked, I'm like, yeah, all right. Next comment.
It may speak for the competition it's at bass.
Yeah, exactly. Of course they're catching them.
I mean, nobody's looking. I mean,
I know. There's a lot of people who don't know who your brother is in the world, but he'll definitely tote a bag up there on their heads.
He beat me in the Alabama Bass Trail thing, like smoked me.
I mean, I'll promise you, dude. People don't know a lot of guys we know in North Alabama and Southern Tennessee, and they whack on their heads.
Exactly.
Well, Jesse, I really appreciate you, dude. Thank you so much for coming on. Take care of that baby, and let's go fishing when you slow down. Let's go fishing this fall.
Hey,
Love to.
I go fishing probably more than just about anybody. So anytime you get ready,
I'm ready.
I seen your boat. You have to drive by my house to get to that boat ramp. Where I seen you at
the old sneaky ramp down there I was at that day.
Yep. So holler at me sometime.
All right, buddy. We can do it. All right. Thank you so much.
See you.
Jesse Wiggins right there. That's a good guy. It's a great competitor. Such a cool story. I love hearing those stories. And it amazes me if you've watched Boats and Pros, the stories that are the same. Carl Jacobson gets made fun of by a teacher. Fishing's not ever going to work out. Jesse Wiggins used that for motivation too. I was told that. Lots of guys were told, you're crazy. You can't fish. You can't do something in fishing for a living. So awesome to hear those stories. And it's awesome to check in with him on MLF. Jesse's a straight up dude. And like he said, he's friends with guys at Bass. A lot of his close friends. He's friends with guys at MLF. And that was an interesting perspective. And that was fun. That was fun for me. Hope y'all enjoyed that. Maybe he changed some folks' mind about MLF. Maybe he didn't. Was proud to have him on, though. He actually did. He commented. He's like, if you want to have somebody on that's at the bottom looking up, have me on talking about the standings or whatever. He's a very humble dude. It's a great, great angler. The only thing that I didn't ask him that I wanted to was, does he get concerned with how much time is spent with the brass of MLF chasing fake Instagram pages, trying to figure out who's behind Jim Jones Fishing, and with like podcasts like mine and others. Like, you got to learn to block the haters out. If they're so-called haters, block them out. You do you. Worry about those anglers. Worry about a guy like Jesse Wiggins, who is a class act, a great angler that put his future in your hands. Quit worrying about YouTube podcasts and fake Instagram accounts with no followers. And that could be said for myself. Fake Instagram, fake Facebook stuff drives me crazy too, and you spend too much time, arguing with it. But just forget that crap. Why would you chase that? If you're that organization, just stop. Just stop. That was awesome. Thank you guys so much for everything. And absolutely appreciate everything you've given me. All the dadgum just views and comments and support over the last little bit. I appreciate it so much. It's the love for show up, shut up. So much fun. We're going to keep doing that. Darian and I got a lot of ideas for that series. So proud that everybody liked that. Episode 3 coming up this week. And I hope you guys have a great, great week. Make sure you hug your dadgum mama. Going to take you out with some Biloxi Blues. And I will see y'all next week. Take care, everybody.
It don't matter east or west, north, south, wherever the wind blows. I'm leaving those burdens at rest. This highway, it does not know my name, and I don't care. No, I don't care. Heading my way for another place, and I got 3 good tires and a spare. Just a white line gypsy getting out of Mississippi with just enough gas to get there.